Morning, everybody. I hope you had a nice weekend and you're ready to get back to work. We are going to continue talking about Still I Rise for the next 2 days. And then on Wednesday, we're going to start reading Romeo and Juliet together, which I cannot wait for. I've prepared some really cool stuff, I think, that you're going to like, but we'll get into that on Wednesday. Um, so what I'm going to talk about right now is your work for today and tomorrow. Okay. I'm asking you to write a little bit. It's going to be difficult. I don't want you to try to do it all at once or in 5 or 10 minutes. This should take you a little bit of time. So I want you to watch this video. If you need to, come back to it. I've also provided in the folder a link to the previous video about Still I Rise. So if you want to go back and look at that just in case. But let's talk about your introductory paragraphs that you wrote last week. Those of you who did them, I appreciate your hard work. I was seeing some really great ideas in them. We're still not being quite specific enough. So I want you to be more specific both in what the poet is doing with language and what it achieves. So what is she conveying about, in this case, the hardships that she's overcome? Okay, and so what I did was, again, you can see the question right up here. The figurative language convey her ideas about overcoming hardship. We have X and Y. So here's X, the figurative language. The metaphor, simile, and imagery I thought were the most important in this case, but we weren't really naming specific ones or in general what types of metaphors or similes was she using, and then how does she overcome hardship? And so her attitude towards those are like a confidence or an optimism or a certainty. And so I want to express those ideas in my introductory paragraph without getting into really like single examples of. We're going to save those examples for our body paragraphs. Okay, so let's look at, I'm going to move it up a little bit. Let's look at the introduction that I wrote, which is right here. By comparing herself to unstoppable, inevitable forces of nature and likening the riches she sees inside of herself to the riches of the earth, Angelou rejects her oppressor's notion that she can be held down. Whether in her personal relationships, as a woman, or as an African American, she will continue to surprise those who attempt to bring her down because she will always rise. All right, so I just want to point out a couple of things in red. That's the X language. So that's the language of what the author did with words in her poem. So comparing, and then some of the things without actually naming, like the ocean or the dust in the air, whatever the things in nature that she named, I'm kind of lumping all of those things together as nature. And so I express the idea in general of how she does it without having to get into super specific details. So I can save those for my body paragraph. And then in green, that's what she's doing. So she's rejecting the notion that she can be held down. So that's the purpose. That's what she conveys. So through those metaphors and similes and other figurative language, she is doing this thing, the green, right? And then I have a further explanation down here. She will continue to surprise those who attempt to bring her down because she will always rise. Now I stole that word from the poem, right? I put it in quotes. And so if that's the language of the poem, then that would be red. Now I don't need you to do the green and red for me. I just want you to take a look back at your intro and see how you could try to answer the question in a little more full way. All right, but now we can get into specifics. For the work for today and tomorrow, I want you to write a body paragraph. I want you to write a body paragraph about any one of the 3 chunks of the poem. I don't care which one. I recommend you go back and look at the notes that I made on the poem to see which one you connect with the most, and then write about that one, okay? But here's a rubric of what should go into a body paragraph. The first thing I want you to do is identify the poetic device and the meaning that the poet used in that chunk. Then incorporate an example that displays it, and then finally discuss the effect your example has. So what does it convey about, right? So if you look back, and you can even go back to the Harlem samples, you could pause this video right now if you wanted, so you could take another look at this. But this is a paragraph that you've already read because it's from the Harlem sample. I wanted you to see what a successful body paragraph looks like. Notice it's like 4 or 5 sentences. It gets into a specific detail, and it explains why that detail is important. So over the next 2 days, this is what I want you to do for Still I Rise.